morning, sends the sun high in the sky. Who would hide from heaven's glory? Who would pass the challenge by? La 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 la.
There's a morning for every nation when the sun's high in the sky. There's a time for every people to affirm their destiny. La 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 la.
Even so, all of us together can create a better land. Leave the past and live tomorrow. Waits for all who understand.
There's a morning for every nation when the sun's high in the sky.
There's a time for every people to affirm their destiny.
La 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 la.
La 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 la. Even so, all of us together can create a better land. Leave the past and new tomorrow waits for all who understand. La 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 la. Leave the past and new tomorrow waits for all who understand.
This is my husband, Atman, and we're coming from Ananda village to share this beautiful vibration with you today. And from Rays of One Light, weekly commentaries on the Bible and the Bhagavad Gita by Swami Kriyananda. First things first. Truth is one and eternal. Realize oneness with it in your deathless self within. The following commentary is based on the teachings of Paramahansa Yogananda. That expression, first things first, is a piece of counsel often given to students of business techniques. It is the advice of practicality to those who aspire to worldly success, but according to Hermetic doctrine, it means as above, so below. That which works best in one level of life is often the best guide to what will work best on every other level. If a person is true to his highest priorities, he will generally find that his other needs are fulfilled naturally as well. It is true, certainly, of the search for God. One of the greatest sayings of Jesus Christ was this simple sentence in the Gospel of St. Matthew, chapter 6. Seek ye first the kingdom of God and his righteousness, and all these things shall be added unto you. Paramahansa Yogananda gave his elder brother Ananta a wonderful lesson in this truth. It was Ananta who had captured him and brought him back from his flight to the Himalayas. Described by Yogananda in Autobiography of a Yogi. In Yogananda's book, we read how Ananta later challenged him in the city of Agra to pit his divine faith against such a practical, worldly considerations as the need for earning a living. Fearless before the challenge, the young aspirant agreed to go by train, without any money, to the nearby town of Vrindavan, not to miss a single meal in Vrindavan, and to find his way back to Agra without begging and without in any other way asking for help. In one of the most thrilling chapters in the book, Yogananda fulfilled all the conditions of the test. Yogananda continued the account. As the tale was unfolded, my brother turned sober, then solemn. The law of demand and supply reaches into subtler realms than I had supposed. Ananta spoke with a scriptural enthusiasm never before noticeable. I understand for the first time your indifference to the vault and vulgar accumulations of the world. Late as he was, my brother insisted that he receive Diksha into Kriya Yoga. As the Bhagavad Gita puts it in the 9th chapter, those who worship lesser gods go to their gods, but those who worship me come to me. Thus, through Holy Scripture, God has spoken to mankind. Om, Om, Om.
Okay, let's continue with our reading from Whispers from Eternity. This is a beautiful, beautiful book by Master of Prayer Demands, he called them, and Poems to the Divine. Satisfy my soul hunger. O all-pervading Spirit, the breeze of thy inspiration has removed every cloud from my heart. The firmament of my mind is now clear, purified. I behold only thee everywhere. The sunshine of thy joy spreads rapidly to the farthest shores of my being. After long ages of hunger, I feed on thy light. By thy grace and by my constant wakefulness in thee, may this joy be mine forever, forever, and forever. As Bhaktimarg said, it's a great joy to be with you. And we're on a little bit of a pilgrimage around the Ananda world. So I've been working at Ananda Village as a community manager for 16 years now. And during a lot of that time, I've been working on renewing our master plan, the document that guides our further development. And it's got very, very complicated with many government studies, many things we had to work out, many people we had to consult, and we submitted it a couple of years ago. It took the government 2 years to look at it. We had to do more things to approve it. It was a very long process. So I am happy to say it was approved unanimously by all the levels of the government, and we now have permission to build, to double our size, to build another 100 residences, to expand the retreat, to build more at the school for businesses. So we have the ability to continue to grow for the next 25 years. So after this, I thought, in keeping with sometimes the example of Swamiji, it'd be nice to take a break from all this. So I talked to Jyotishi and Devi Ji, and there was a Kriyaban retreat in Italy, and in the end of August, I said, oh, that would be nice to go to that, and they encouraged us to go to that. And then Bhaktimarg, as Dharmarajanji mentioned, works for the Spanish ministry. She is from Spain. Her sister and brother-in-law and nephews and niece live in Spain. So we visited some meditation groups in Spain. We went to see her family. And then it's been a long, long time since I've been in India. I've actually been in India a number of times before. We worked with a development project in Ladakh in the late 80s and early 90s. And the last time I was here was before our son was born in 1995. So that was 22 years ago. So I had a great desire to come back, and now especially that Swamiji had come back and Ananda was established throughout India. So we decided to come and do a bit of a pilgrimage around India. So it's been a great, great joy. I have a very deep samskaras or memories, I think, of India. I feel a lot of joy here. I feel a great vibration here, and we're having a great time. We've been in Delhi. Mark and I went up to Badrinath, to Babaji's cave. We spent some time with Jayaji in Pune, and now we're coming down here because we had to come see Dharmarajanji because he left Ananda village about 10 years ago, and at that point he was Mark's teacher for 6th class, and Swamiji said, no, time to go to India, and Mark has never recovered from losing his teacher. No, that's not true, he did fine. But we thought it'd be wonderful to come down and see all you and experience the South, and we've just come back from a couple of days. We went down to Trivandrum, Pondicherry, Auroville, and we'll finish our stay in India in another week. We're going to Puri to see Sri Yukteswar's ashram, and then finishing in Calcutta with Master's houses. So it's wonderful, and it's wonderful to share with you. So on the topic of today, it's something that's very interesting, of putting God first, of searching for Him, and then whatever we need will be added. And we've all probably were inspired by various things on the path. The autobiography of a yogi, we read these chapters, these wonderful things that happened to Master, of going to Vrindavan. Suddenly he's taken off the train and escorted to this big feast where he's treated like royalty. And then he comes out of that ashram and he's picked up by, there's suddenly someone there who wants to be his disciple, wants to tour them around Vrindavan and takes care of them. It's a very, as it says in the reading, a very, very thrilling story. And many, many other stories of Master meeting saints, of having experiences in cosmic consciousness, the divine. At some point that all just grabbed us. It appealed to us. Everybody's path is a little bit different to get here, but I think we've all been inspired by that, and we say, yes, this is for me. This is what I want to do. I want to experience God like this. And so then sometimes we are a little naive, and we come and we say, okay, I'm ready for samadhi. It's time. And sometimes we have a little bit more of a realistic path, and we know, okay, there's going to be some work here and a path, and we come to the center, or we start looking for spiritual teachers, and then sometimes a doubt comes, because we're coming from an age where the search for God was confined mainly to renunciates, mainly to those, the sadhus, the swamis, or in the West, the monks, who could withdraw themselves from life and renounce everything and just say, okay, I want only Thee, Lord, and just focus on that. And you still see those, of course. We came through Assisi, Italy, and there's a big monastery there from St. Francis, and there's many Franciscan monks in their robes, and we came to India. We went up to Badrinath. We actually were fortunate enough, we took a trek up to Satopan, which is the source of the Alakananda River up above Badrinath. And the sadhus are still there. They're sort of amazing that we're huffing and puffing at 4,000 meters, and these sadhus dressed in just their dhoti and shawl and barefoot, they're coming up and they're meditating there, and it was very, very beautiful. And you say, oh yes, the Himalayas, this is where realization should be found. And we met another wonderful, wonderful soul on our travels, Swami Paramananda, which I think some of you have had the fortune of meeting. He lives now near Raniket, but he in his earlier years also was more of a wandering sadhu. He told us he spent 2 years in a cave near the Pindari Glacier, just living on a couple potatoes and a tea every day and wearing nothing and just devoting his life to God. And he actually met Babaji there. So it's tremendous inspiration. But what about if it's not our karma to renounce everything, to become a sadhu, to become a monk in a monastery. Well, fortunately, Yogananda and our masters came to say, no, that's Kali Yuga in some ways. It's just, it still happens in this Yuga, but there's a much, much broader expansion of consciousness now that we can tune into, that you don't have to be a monk or a solitary seeker, that you can be in the world. Yogananda said, the time for knowing God has come. And he didn't mean just for those who had the karma to renounce. He meant for everyone. And we look at Lahiri Mahashaya when he was initiated into Kriya Yoga by Babaji. You've all read the story in the Himalayas. And Babaji said, we must give this to those who are sincere seekers. He didn't say just to those, first he said, those who can live the very renunciate life. But then Lahiri appealed to him and said, no, there are truth seekers everywhere. I hear the voices of many people in many walks of life who need this yoga. And Babaji said, let it be so. Let it come out into the world. And Lahiri didn't stay with Babaji in the Himalayas. He returned to his householder's duties in Benares. He had a job, he had children, he had modest responsibilities. He fulfilled those responsibilities. And his disciple, Sri Yukteswarji, also had a daughter. He took care of family estates. He even instituted lawsuits. I like that one where they talk about that. That's like the ultimate world, that you're suing people. But Yukteswar, that was dharma. That was what he had to do. He was in the world. And Yogananda came to us to bring this same message, that yoga is for everyone. And there's a passage in the autobiography that I'd like to read that's very, very poignant to this point, one that I like to keep in mind a lot, frequently. This is from the chapter, I Join the Swami Order. The Bhagavad Gita points out that the methods of yoga are all embracive. Its techniques are not meant only for certain types and temperaments, such as those few who incline toward the monastic life. Yoga requires no formal allegiance, because the yoga science satisfies a universal need. It has a natural, universal applicability. A true yogi may remain dutifully in the world. There he is like butter on water, not like the easily diluted milk of unchurned and undisciplined humanity. To fulfill one's earthly responsibilities is indeed the higher path, provided the yogi, the yogi maintaining a mental uninvolvement with egotistical desires, plays his part as a willing instrument of God. That's a great, great solace for all of us who have the karma of still being in the world. This path is for us. This path is for everyone. And as it says here, if you put that first, then all things will be taken care of. All these things shall be added unto you. Well, how do we do that? How do we make that happen? And one of the things that we can do is just keep God foremost in our mind. And I really enjoy being here in India because the reminders of God are everywhere here. You get in an auto, there's a little altar on the front of the auto. On the back of the truck, there's something painted. Ganesh is there, or one of Hanuman. You're driving down the street, there's a temple. There's another temple, another temple. It's wonderful. It's always God reminding. And we really enjoyed seeing these temples and seeing the God manifest here. But it's important to remember that we can get just used to seeing these things, and we can say, oh, okay, it's enough that I'm near the temple because it will help me, or it's enough that I'm near a master, or as Yogananda wanted to do, he wanted to search for God in the Himalaya, and he ran away there, and what did Yukteswar tell him? He said, well, there are many hillmen in the Himalaya who are not progressing, who are not reaching self-realization. And again, Yogananda told his disciples that it's important for their own self-effort, for that attunement, because he said he lived at Mount Washington. That was his headquarters in Los Angeles. And some of the disciples were saying that, it's wonderful that we're here. And he was sort of scolding them. He said, no, you have to put more effort, more openness, more attunement. He said, there are many mice who live in these canyons around Mount Washington, and they are not progressing in the path of self-realization. There's a part that we need to do. But it's not changing something. It's an attitude of how we approach what God has given us, how we approach our life. And there's a story in the Mahabharata that's it's one of the more obscure stories, at least I think it comes from the Mahabharata. It's not about the central Kauravas and Pandavas and characters, but there was a story of a sadhu, and he was out in the forest and doing his tapasya, meditation and penance. He was a devotee of Lord Shiva, and he was sitting under a tree and meditating, and he was getting a little bit proud of himself as a yogi. This, I am wonderful meditating, I can sit here, I'm getting all these siddhis, I'm getting these powers. And there was one day a crow came and was sitting in the tree above where he was meditating, and the crow, as crows will do, started making a lot of noise. And it kept going, and the yogi is saying, this crow shouldn't be doing this. He's disturbing my meditation. He's disturbing my connection with the divine. And so he got a little bit more and more agitated because the crow just kept going. And so he opened his eyes and he looked at the crow and he just said, "Crow, be gone." And the crow fell dead to the ground. He said, "Oh, I have some great powers. I'm a great yogi." And so he then continued his meditation, and he was, as sadhu, he went to the village to beg his daily ration. And he came to a door of a woman in the village where he had been before, and he knocked on the door, and the voice answered from within and said, "Yes, just coming. Yes, Swamiji, I'll be there very shortly. Just a moment." And he waited, and he waited, and he started to get a little agitated. He said, "Doesn't this woman know who I am, that the great blessing she can receive by giving me food?" He said, I'm just coming. I am attending to my husband. I am attending to my family. He is ill, and I need to take care of him. And he got a little bit more angry, and he said, "Woman, are you coming?" And she answered him, she said, "Yes, I am coming, but beware, I am not your crow." And he said, "Whoa, this woman, how did she know that?" And so when she finally came, he asked her, he said, how do you know that? He said, "I'm a simple woman. I just try to serve God and others. I try to do whatever I can where God has placed me. I am serving my husband. He is infirm. He is helping. I have also sought some help of others." And this sadhu said, "Wow, this woman has great realization," and said, who have you sought counsel from?" And she gave him the name of someone in the next village. And so he said, "Okay, I will go seek this person out." So he goes to the next village and he starts asking for this person. And they say, "Oh, he's down there," and they're pointing to a back street, and he walks, and just here. And he comes to the butcher's stalls, and he goes, "This can't be correct. What is this? The butcher, I can't learn from a butcher. This is an unclean profession, and this is impossible." But he said, "How did that woman know?" She said. So he just opened himself, and he went there, and he found the butcher just doing his job, doing where he had placed him, where God had placed him. And he said, "Wait, just wait." And again, the sadhu was going, "What? I'm in the wrong place. This can't be." But then he started telling him about his life, and he told him about some of his faults, and he told him the trap of the ego consciousness that he had gotten into, thinking that his spiritual ego was great. And he realized that even this man who is doing this very lowly task has more self-realization than I do, and so I will follow him. So it's just a story to show that it doesn't matter where God places us. We can do whatever it is we need to do, and it's with the attitude that we do it with. So if we're going to go to the temple, it's not just run through, okay, puja, my offering here, blessing, okay, done, finished. Or in the West, it's I go to church on Sunday, I take care of it, I get the communion or I get the blessing, and it's fine. No, we have to enter into it with our own spirit, with our own attitude of openness, and we have to try in whatever we do to be able to receive that grace. And the wonderful, wonderful thing of this path is, from Yogananda, from Swamiji, is that they've given us techniques to spiritualize every part of our life. It doesn't matter what. Of course, we have sadhana, that's the basis. We have the meditation techniques, we have chanting, japa, we have our yoga postures. It's all a wonderful thing. But we also have service. We also have the part of our life that says, yes, we have to serve. We have to do what is in this world. And they've taught us many, many things: how to spiritualize relationships, how to spiritualize education, how to spiritualize your business life. So it's not what we are doing, it's how we are doing it. And it's always placing God first, asking for guidance, staying true to principles, true to Dharma, and doing it. So this is a question, of course, for many, many people. And Swami Kriyananda, when he came to India, he was facing very many health challenges. And he was burning, I think he was burning all of his karma, he was burning our karma, but he was amazing. He would, he'd always have, he was about to die, I don't know, at least 15 times, I think. But we would pray for him and he would keep serving. So one time, I think he had just had an operation. He was in the hospital in Delhi. He was just recovering from an operation. And the doctor, the attending physician, came in and started speaking to him. And, Swamiji said, as he told it with his sense of humor, he said, when the doctor comes in, you expect him to ask you how you're doing and how did the operation go and how you are feeling. But the doctor came in and he knew who Swamiji was. He had seen him. He had read some of his things, and he said, "Oh, Swamiji, I need some advice. I need some help because I am a doctor. I'm a physician. I have a good job. I'd like to dedicate myself more to the spiritual path, but I have my sons and daughter. They need to be educated. I'm taking care of my parents. I need to keep this job going. It's not always easy to uphold Dharma. There's a tendency, can I make more money? Can I make sure my children have good education, take care of my parents? How can I do this? How can I do this world?" And so Swamiji took this to heart, and he, there in his recovery stage, he, as usual, forgot about himself and his body, and he started thinking, how can I help people with this? And so when Keshavaji, who was in Delhi with him, came to the hospital, he said, "Okay, Keshava, I need to write." But he couldn't write, he was too weak, he was lying on his back in bed. So he started dictating. And what he started dictating was his lessons, the material success through yoga principles. It's had a number of different names, the Akash lessons, but he wrote a whole series of lessons about how to find God in the business world, in the daily economics, the daily fray of the world. And he sat there the first day, he dictated the chapters. Okay, we'll have this chapter, this chapter, this chapter. He just opened himself, and suddenly another wonderful, wonderful book came through. And one of the interesting things in this is something we have to keep in mind when we talk about all these things will come to us. We have to say, what is success? And he starts with a chapter. It's called, like in the reading, First Things First. And he starts talking about, well, what is it that is success? What is it we're really trying to do? And the world pulls us so much. We're still in early Dwapara Yuga, Kali Yuga, material consciousness. It pulls us to say, I have to take care of my parents, I have to take care of my kids, I have to do education, I need more money, I have to pay the mortgage, I have to survive. It just pulls us out. But we think, why do we have to do all those things? It's important because it's where God has placed it. But what is it we really want? We really want happiness. We really want joy. We really want that joy inside. And what we're looking for will only truly be found when we have the connection to the divine. And it means, again, we don't forget all these other things that we have to do in this world. We just do them with a consciousness of the divine and in a way that will bring us toward where we really want to go. And where we really want to go is greater and greater expansion, greater being closer to the divine, greater self-realization. And again, we have to remember everybody's path is different. Everybody's karma is different. It doesn't mean what one person is doing, renouncing the world and trekking in the Himalayas, or one person serving as a physician, or one person serving their children in the house. It's where God has placed us. And the only thing that's really important is, what direction am I going in, and am I making progress? So you have to say, am I getting more contractive? Am I getting more materialistic? Am I moving back into this? Or am I expanding? I'm thinking more of others. I'm feeling more joy. I'm feeling a greater expansion in my life. And this is extremely important. The joy is especially a good barometer. Am I making progress? Am I feeling joy? And as we sink back doing our duties and suddenly we feel tension, we feel difficulties, we feel anger, we feel anxiety about our children, we feel a lack of patience with our parents, you're moving the wrong way. Something is different. You have to give it back to God. Think of that divine, think of that energy coming through. Reclaim your joy. Swamiji was incredibly active and prolific and doing many things. But he said, and then we would try, his students, we would try to emulate him. And we would try to do many projects, and we would work a lot. And one time there was a group, a couple in Australia who were opening a new center there. And Swamiji went to visit there, and they asked him, he said, Swamiji, you set the example of giving 110%, and we try to do that too, but sometimes we don't do so well. And Swamiji said, well, there's one difference, and that difference is, no matter what I do, I never lose my joy. If I start to lose my joy, if I start to lose my connection, I back up, I reconnect with the divine. You people, sometimes you force it too much, and you lose that sense of joy. You lose that flow. And so you lose that sense of bringing the divine into the world and being able to come forward with that. So it's wherever we are, the right attitude, service, sadhana, and these things will come to us. And again, it's little steps that feel comfortable. It's not presumptuous. So you look at Master says, no problem, I'll go to Brindaban penniless and I will be taken care of. Or Swamiji, many times in his life, he would say, okay, we need to do this project. I have no idea where the money is coming from, but I know Master wants me to do it, and he launches forth. Or one time he was about to go to India and he wrecked his car, and the only money he had was enough to buy a car. And in America, it's very difficult to live where we lived in Ananda village without a car. And he said, well, I need to go to India, and I think that's what Divine Mother wants me to do. So I'm going to India, and Divine Mother, you'll have to just provide for me. And just before he went, he received a check. Somebody, an anonymous donor, just gave him a check, and it was enough to buy a new old car, a used vehicle. And so many times they have that connection. But does that say that we can do it? I mean, can we go to the highest building and say, okay, I'm going to test God. I'm going to jump off this building and God is going to catch me? No, that's presumptuous. We're not at that level yet. But what you want to do is to take the little steps, just where it feels right. Say, okay, I'm not quite sure about this one, but God, you have to help me take this next step. You have to help me do this. And it's, take those little steps and you'll find. I found in my life that sometimes I'm a very rational person and I don't see how the whole plan can work, but I say, okay, I've done my part, I've given all my energy, now you have to help. And I found over and over again, what needs to come, comes. In this pilgrimage we're taking, we've had many, many beautiful times. I just say, okay, Babaji, whatever you want, and then something works out. We want, the right driver comes, or we can find the right place, or we find a place to go, or we're the right person to talk to. So I think we can all put that into effect in our lives. And remember, just keep that joy. Just if you're feeling joy, if you're feeling expansion, you're going in the right direction. And stay with that.
I just want to share a short story that I think is very fitting to this point. And that is when I started the spiritual path, when I read Autobiography of a Yogi, as everybody's like, yes, I want this, I want God. And then I was hearing about this saintly person that he was giving darshan, so I was running there, said, okay, darshan, here. And running another one, and another one, and suddenly I stopped and I said, wait a minute. What I'm trying to do is that somebody will get realized and give me the boom, and I will be realized instantly without doing any work. That's what I was feeling. It's like, will this person will give me the samadhi? Will this person will give me, what I need? But I didn't want to do any work. I wanted to be, I'm a saintly person. I don't have to do any work. And then going deeper into Master's teachings, self-realization, self. I have to do the work. I am the one who have to have the strong sadhana. I am the one who has to change. Nobody's going to change for me. No one. No one is going to give me realization, self-realization. I have to work for it. And when I came to this realization, I really relaxed. And also when I came to find my guru, it's like, this is it. This is the path. So in this pilgrimage that we're taking in India, it has been wonderful to visit different saintly places where saints were living. But I really felt Masters and Swamiji presence with me. And it was a combined effort of energy. It's like, beautiful experience, a lot of expansion. And at the same time, I'm very grateful for having the teachings of the Masters. Yesterday we were in Auroville, which is close by, and we were able to talk to somebody who's been there for 22 years. She's from Germany, and she was telling us, how the community was doing and the challenges they have now. And they do have a lot of challenges. And I thank Swamiji and Master, they gave us clarity on how to really have that union with God and what the path is and the steps we need to take, but the effort we need to put too. And the blessings of the Master will come when we put the effort, when we really do our part. As Master said, 25% is our part, 25% is the Guru's part, and 50% is God's. But we have to have our 25 there. If not, nothing else comes. So keep this in mind and do your best. This is all the Masters are asking us. that we do the best we can. Don't compare yourself with anyone. Don't compare. Never. Don't talk about other people. Never. You are with God, with Master, with a Guru. And that's the most important thing, that you do your best. With Master's grace, we'll reach God. Blessings to all.